Well, as everyone here likes to say, today I was running around shops for work, and honestly I was just blown away by the prices. Things that cost 250 to 300 rubles before New Year are now over 500. What used to be a bit over 500 is now 1,000. And there's this cafe near the border that we used to stop at for lunch pretty often. A standard portion of lula kebab with grilled potatoes used to cost around 300 rubles. Now it's 500.
Hey man, did I miss something while I was asleep? Since when does Max Fan cost 500 rubles? Regular Alpengold for 200. How does it smell? Tastes amazing.
It happened. Russians started wailing in mass, but not from a sudden awakening, not from learning the truth about the war, not from the tens of thousands of liberators conveniently disposed of in the so-called special military operation, and not even from international isolation, sanctions, or that very same bavovna that's increasingly landing straight into their reality. Their real tragedy lies nowhere but in their wallets.
It feels like we're going back to the 90s, except back then there was no food, and now there is food, but no money for it. So what are we supposed to eat? I'm in shock that Lipton costs 200 rubles. Chips are 170.
Across the region, they're even locking chocolate up in those security cases now, because prices have shot through the roof. It's already 139 rubles. People are being pushed into stealing. They simply can't afford a chocolate bar. Prices have gone up, sure.
That truly hurts citizens of the Federation. That's where Skabeva's and Solovyov's TV mantras don't work, where rising from the knees and fairy tales about greatness fall flat. Because reality has knocked straight on their wallets, which have been shrinking rapidly since the beginning of the year. Why? Because as of January 1st, 2026, Russia raised VAT from 20% to 22%. The official reason is to cover the budget deficit. The unofficial one, there is no money, but you hold on and pay up. Because war isn't just pompous speeches on the screens of Russian TV trash heaps. It's also prices, tariffs, and empty pockets. And this is exactly where Russians suddenly developed a sense of injustice.
If you're still calling this an poor pack, please apologize. It's a rich person pack now. And no, we're not joking about the rich part. Such a tiny little root vegetable. And what are we supposed to eat it with? Probably with tasteless tomatoes for 400 rubles. Seriously? Cucumbers are half 1,000. Since when did a simple cucumber and tomato salad become a delicacy? Forget it. Just forget it altogether. And eggs. Our beloved eggs. Where did that price tag come from? I don't get it. Are they being laid by Oksana Samolova's chicken or what, honestly? My dear girls, have you cried yet? How are you even living like this? I also know exactly how many of them you buy every month. And this pain isn't from the cycle anymore. It's from the price.
Because when lives are taken, that's somewhere far away. When drones and missiles wipe others off the face of the earth, that doesn't bother them either. They're apolitical. But when Putin reaches for their rubles, now that's a personal tragedy of imperial scale. Just look at how loudly Russians are screaming. By the way, even young and well-off Muscovites.
I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but look, as you remember, this is what 100 rubles used to look like. Everyone knows it's 100 rubles. I've known it since childhood. But now there's been a rebranding, and this is what 100 rubles look like now. There you go. So let's not relax.
So, while Russian citizens were finishing off their New Year Olivier salad, the very one they could still afford this year, Kremlin offices, without any holiday sentiments, were preparing yet another improvement to quality of life. While spoons clicked against plates, officials quietly and methodically tightened the financial screws. And they hit not only the wallets of ordinary Russians, but also businesses, the very same stable, import-substituted, and supposedly unshakable ones. As a result, many Russian entrepreneurs are now returning from winter holidays not to work, but to shuttered storefronts. And with grim faces, they're saying goodbye to their customers.
Dear customers, we have very sad news to share with you. We have made the decision to close our branch in the city of Irkutsk. I would like to explain why. The first reason is, of course, the new tax system, which requires paying significantly higher taxes. At the end of this year and the beginning of the next, many small businesses are shutting down. People are being left without jobs.
So much for the start of the year in Russia, a federation where television solemnly reports that inflation is within normal limits and that citizens' living standards, attention, are confidently rising even during wartime. There is just one small detail. The citizens themselves are bug-eyed at store prices, and not only pensioners or public sector workers who were taught long ago how to survive, but also young, employed, far from poor Muscovites who suddenly realized that stability can't be bought with either salary or propaganda. So, how it's going, Vladimir Vladimirovich? Is everything going according to plan? Because for some reason that plan crashes hard at Russian store checkouts. Loud speeches from TV don't work there. It's very simple. Either you pay or you silently stare. And at that moment, the great power shrinks rapidly to the size of a price tag. Then it continues by inertia. Just as quickly, the numbers of shops, restaurants, and even small cafes declines. Because you can feed an empire with promises and words. Businesses, no.
Businesses have begun shutting down en masse. Since the new year, entrepreneurs across the country have been closing cafes, shops, and delivery services. The reason is the VAT increased to 22% and the introduction of new tax rules. Prices are rising, wages aren't, consumer demand is shrinking, and high rents and utility costs are making operations unprofitable. More and more businesses are breaking even at best, and often operating at a loss.
Moreover, against the backdrop of the VAT hike, restricted access to simplified taxation, financial analysts predict the closure for up to 30% of small and medium-sized businesses.
On Avito, shops are shutting down in batches. People are selling off their businesses openly, without any shame. They write it plainly, due to the VAT increase. Where are we heading? We've already sunk below the minimum. There's nowhere left to fall. Stop. Enough. What is even going on? Now go ahead and write me comments about how we supposedly have an amazing attitude toward the people, about how people here are being kept at a high standard, how everything is wonderful. Go on. Write those comments. I keep running into them everywhere. The average salary is 30,000 rubles. Fine. Now write to me how you're supposed to live on those 30,000 with prices like these. I live alone. I went to the store. I didn't buy any treats, no delicacies, just the basic essentials. 2,800 rubles. And I walked out with a bag that was honestly half empty. Those of you with families, tell me, how are you going to live now? What are you going to eat? What will you survive on? And that's without even mentioning clothes. Shops are closing down in batches. And utility bills haven't even gone up yet. The real berries are still ahead. This is just the flowers. So, Happy New Year 2026 to everyone.
See? Russians are in shock because businesses can't cope. Or rather, it can no longer bear the yoke of war. Even in Moscow, bars and restaurants are shutting down at record speed. In less than January alone, 45 popular venues in the Russian capital have already closed, double last year's figure. Experts estimate that at least 465 establishments will shut down in Moscow in 2026, an absolute record. Beauty salons aren't staying afloat either.
The capital's beauty industry is going through difficult times. Owners of Moscow beauty salons are increasingly putting their businesses up for sale. Over the past 2 years, inflation has been quite high, and prices for the products we use in our work, as well as rent and other expenses, have been rising constantly. Naturally, in order to maintain profitability at a reasonable level, we've had to adjust our service prices. Over the past year, we've increased the average bill by about 15%.
What did you expect? Someone has to pay for the ruins of Solidar and Pokrovsk. War is expensive. Tanks, missiles, drones, propaganda, security forces, all of it costs billions. And sanctions didn't disappear just because the Kremlin pretends they don't exist. So the most interesting part lies ahead for Russians, because raising VAT isn't just plus 2%. It's a new reality. One for rising prices for goods and services, additional inflationary pressure, falling revenues for surviving businesses, and even more expensive state borrowing. In other words, the state takes more, people get less. Classic Putin's math. And citizens of the Federation living paycheck to paycheck now just shrug. Tine, get angry. Social media is flooded with thousands of similar posts and videos.
So, friends, we're starting the new year, 2026. With what? Well, my husband went to the store. How much do you think all this cost? This includes trout. And just so you know, that alone is 800 rubles. And the rest? 2,800. Tangerines, cottage cheese, candies, cheese, sour cream, coffee capsules, and cheese again. 3,000. Girls, I'm honestly shocked by these prices. 2 bags cost me 5,000. I bought basically nothing, and still spent that much money. We used to live on 10,000 a month as a family. Now it's 5,000 in a single day, just like that. It's horrible, just awful.
You see, Putin is dragging Russia to the bottom, methodically, confidentially, without unnecessary doubts. And they care about only one thing: how to stuff their stomachs and refrigerators. So it's hardly surprising that the bunker dweller is dragging Russia down with the hands of Russians themselves, with their taxes, their pockets, their future. They do have a present though, but even their present is getting worse and worse.
Life is getting even worse. They add a bit to pensions, say 1,000 rubles, and immediately everything goes up. All food prices. So what's the point? No one is seeing any real wage increases. That money just disappears somewhere. At least I don't see it. I work as a teacher and I haven't felt any pay raise. They added 76 rubles and prices went up. Look, they say eggs have gotten cheaper. Well, nothing has. Nothing has gone down. Wages aren't really growing, but prices are rising fast. Salaries simply can't keep up with price increases. And it seems to me that inflation is much higher than what our statisticians are showing us. I don't know where they get these numbers, but in reality, inflation feels far higher. Wages are still low for everyone. I mean ordinary people. Whether small salaries or big ones, they're all too low.
So the conclusion is simple. While Kremlin propaganda talks about rising from their knees, the Federation is sinking. While TV screams about greatness, the fridge is empty. And while Putin wags war against Ukraine, Russians wag war against prices, bills, and their own helplessness. But as they like to say in Russia, this is all temporary. The main thing is not to ask unnecessary questions and to pay taxes on time, because the empire won't feed itself. Even 2026, which has only just begun, already proves this. In fact, in just 1 month, it's already knocked Russians down hard, brutally, and without sentimentality. And no, they aren't temporary difficulties or Western intrigues. This is the bill for silence, for obedience, for supporting the bloody war unleashed by Putin. Because while some Russians continue to become cannon fodder for money, others will pay out of their own pockets. The only question is, will it ever dawn on them?
Where did so many of you come from in my country? What made you decide this is your homeland? pogroms, and all that nonsense. Put your own swamp in order first, then go off to save someone else. I used to be the same way. I didn't know the value of life, neither my own nor anyone else's. When you grow up, start a family, then you'll understand. You need to fix your own swamp instead of sticking your nose into someone else's. Maybe then something will finally shift in your head.
What do you think? Why do Russians tolerate all this? Why do they pay more and more, grow poorer, close businesses, and still don't rise from their knees? As for me, I'm certain. For years, they've been taught a simple truth: enduring is safer than thinking. They were told that poverty is patriotism, silence is stability, and fear is the highest form of love for the state. And most important, Putin doesn't need Russians as citizens. He doesn't need their decent lives. He needs their money and their men at the front. So, to sum up, every new tax, every price hike, every closed businesses in Russia isn't a system failure. It is the system. And as long as Russians agree to live worse for the sake of greatness, they will be robbed even more brutally. Not to improve life in Russia, but to continue the war. Because empires are always built on obedience, and slaves have neither a voice nor a choice. And I will keep talking about this for as long as Russian missiles keep flying at our cities.